Peter Robinson, you've come out to Brussels, you're in the European Parliament. What's the purpose of your visit?
Well, we're going through a talks or negotiating process at the present time in Northern Ireland. So we wanted to bring members of the European Parliament up to speed with what's going on, where we stand, and to indicate very clearly that we take the process seriously and we're wanting to get a positive outcome from it. We do that particularly in the context of a debate that will take place later on today on Northern Ireland issues, so that people are better informed for that debate.
What's your message then to Europe, to the European Parliament?
Well, it's probably one of the few occasions when people come out and they're not asking for more money or for the European Parliament to do something in particular for them. All we're asking effectively is that Europe continues to take the same level playing field attitude to Northern Ireland matters that it has taken in the past. It continues to give the support and encouragement, not encouragement just in terms of rhetoric, but Europe has engaged with Northern Ireland in terms of the Barroso Task Force, which was set up to help Northern Ireland move from the position that it had been, where it didn't have to compete for funds. It now does have to, and it's helped to guide us through that period of time. And then we have the peace funding as well. So Europe has been a very helpful partner to Northern Ireland as it has been making this transition from conflict into peace.
Given that level of support for Northern Ireland, which is pretty unprecedented compared to other parts of Europe, Europe's invested. Is there going to be a step where Europe's going to want something in return? It's going to want to see a return for its money. It's going to want to see Northern Ireland reach a kind of next stage.
Well, I think nobody wants to see that more than the people that are living in Northern Ireland. We have a vested interest in having that stability and peace in Northern Ireland. So Europe's desire for that is perhaps trumped by the desire of people in Northern Ireland. So we're moving in the same direction. There's no conflict between the desire of Europe and the desire of the people of Northern Ireland on that issue.
How helpful is it that you're out here, as well as Mike Nesbitt, that both the unionists kind of presenting themselves in Europe together?
Well, we want to give a very clear impression to people in Europe that unionism wants to engage, unionism wants to have a satisfactory outcome to the process, and that unionism is grateful for the role that Europe has played in assisting with our process in Northern Ireland.
Any impact, are you expecting an impact of your visit here to Brussels and meeting MEPs and this resolution in the European Parliament on these very important talks?
Well, all we're doing is giving added weight to the work that's already going on here. I mean, Diane Dodds and Jim Nicholson are here throughout the week, every week. So all we do is come in to support the work that they have already been doing. And as soon as we go home, they will continue to do.
Theresa Villiers has been quoted in interviews recently talking about the talks needing to intensify. Is that something you support?
Yes, any talks process goes through stages. People have early sparring. They try to make sure that the other guy is going to take the blame. Then they move to setting out what their case is. And then they try to work out what is it the other person is really wanting, where is their movement. And I think we've got to that stage where it's really getting down to what we call the nitty-gritty in Northern Ireland, where we start to look to see what is a possible outcome, and that is the intensification of the talks process itself.
At this stage then, how hopeful are you these talks are going to reach a conclusion? When can we expect an outcome? And how much do you want this at this stage, given how long they've dragged on?
Well, there are issues that we're facing in the talks process for the first time, issues like welfare reform and some of the budgetary issues. Some of the legacy matters have been with us for a long time, and we haven't been successful thus far. But of course, you keep trying, you keep returning to the table until you sort those issues out. Nobody can give guarantees in terms of what is likely to happen throughout the process. I think if people genuinely engage, genuinely want to get an outcome, then it becomes possible. I think most of us recognise that really has to be done before the end of this year, before we all start getting tripped up with the election issues for Westminster.
The DUP didn't back the Haas discussions. Do you believe an agreement can be reached on these legacy issues?
Well, we did back the discussions. We took part in those discussions. Unfortunately, Richard Haas departed from the terms upon which he was brought in and brought out his own report. He was there to facilitate agreement between the parties, but decided to put proposals forward himself, which weren't satisfactory to the unionist community. Though the broad architecture was workable, I think in the present circumstances where funding becomes a real issue, I think a lot of people will be looking at how costly that kind of structure would be and whether we need to simplify it. But the Democratic Unionist Party is looking for a victim-centred approach, not one that rewrites history, one that allows victims to have some sense of justice.
Wouldn't you be satisfied with a deal in these ongoing talks that sort out the money issues, they sort out the budget and so forth, even if the legacy issues are not resolved?
Well, I don't want to go for half a loaf. I'd like to have everything resolved that has been a difficulty within the process. But very clearly, we have been able to reach agreement on a draft budget. We now have to deal with wider budgetary issues, the amount of budget we get in our block grant, and we have to deal with welfare reform. Those are issues that have the potential to bring the executive to a standstill, so they are a priority issue. The other issues, while they dogged us and have dogged us throughout the process thus far, obviously are issues that will have an impact in the future if we can't resolve them. So I think everybody has to roll up their sleeves and try and resolve these matters. But as I say, there's no guarantee in terms of outcome, but there is a certainty that if we don't get an outcome that is satisfactory to everybody in terms of budgetary and social welfare issues, it will have a severe impact on the future of the executive.
I'm told that there are some nationalists that are suspicious that you would be happy with a deal on budget and to let the other things roll on unresolved.
Why would we? I mean, this is again part of the blame game, where you say he doesn't really want that, and therefore if we don't get agreement, it's his fault. Let's be clear, everybody wants to get all of these matters resolved, but it does require compromise from everybody. Stop just looking at unionists to make the compromises.